Well, hello, we're the Taylors. I'm Gerald, and
I'm Linda.
we are Real Educational Services. And today we want to talk to you about a little bit of our history with AWS and the Certified Welding Inspector program. Now, they actually started the CWI test in 1976, and I was still at the college teaching, and changed jobs in '79 to a mechanical test lab, and thought I ought to go take the test, and I wound up teaching most of the class there in Pascagoula, Mississippi in 1979. Went to New Orleans, tested, and came back and continued to teach. We didn't have a lot of classes, but a couple of classes, small classes a year for in the beginning of the 80s. In the beginning, all the way up through 1985, there were no practical tests. When I took it, the practical test was 100 questions, and they called it a practical test. There were plastic replicas, welded replicas with tubes came in 1985. And like I said, I was already teaching it. So in 1985, I had a training class already scheduled to go to and perform in Georgia at a nuclear power plant. I knew they were going to be taking that new test, so I called up Miami Friday afternoon late and said, I'll be there Monday. Back then you could do that. And I flew to Miami and took the test, and came back to Mississippi, and got real busy digging around in my scrap pile from my technical training company, Tech Welding, and pulled out samples like you see here, and I created 15, this is number 8, samples. All of them had different answers, 20 questions in there with different answers. But it worked for a few years to get people ready for that test. And my pass-fail rate did not fall below 80% during those years, so we were doing the right thing. And then, and I don't remember what year this came in. I just wanted to tell you about the history a little bit. CAWI came into being, and Old Taylor wasn't real happy about it, thought they were watering the program down. But after a while, it turned out to be a good thing. These people would take the same test as the CWI, but they only had to make 60, and then they would have 3 years working with the CWI to get ready for that test after they had 5 years experience. So it did help, and I began to change my mind. Well, 1997 was a good year for me. That was a year that I took and passed the senior CWI test. I went to the first class AWS had in Kansas City. But the best thing happened. This lady right here showed up at one of my programs early in January, and then continued to come through the rest of them. But when she showed up that morning, there's something about those eyes that I really liked, and I convinced her to stay and work for me and eventually become my partner and my wife. But that was 1997. I'll let her talk to you about this because she got involved in this history part.
Well, I'd been helping Gerald with the course and developing the course and revising. And in 2015, we heard that they were going to come out with a massive change to the practical Part B examination, that they were going to replace the Part B specification, which is the open book document that test is created around, and the plastic samples were going to change. So we had to do some scrambling to get our course ready for when we were going to be teaching people to take that new test. So what I got to do was find out by taking a beta exam later in 2015, which is just a group of guinea pigs, I suppose you could call it. Third-party trainers got to go down to AWS and take a test on the new Part B spec and the new plastic samples. Well, that gave me a chance to take a look at it, and yes, I can say the tests that they're giving now for the practical and probably for the other two, the fundamentals and the code, are probably harder than they've ever been before, but at the same time, they're the best tests they've ever had. I know it's a major improvement from what I took in 1997. Because now the tests are more about what the CWI actually does, and especially the Part B. So when they revised that in 2015, 2016, they started giving that test to classes, and our first class to take it was in Houma, Louisiana in February of 2016.
Now, we've been in it for a long time, and we have no plans of stopping tomorrow night teaching this thing. So we've been teaching the thing since 1979. There are now lots of folks out there that are telling you that you should come take their course. None of the same folks. There may be some old people in those companies, but none of them, I can assure you, have been teaching the class and helping people get prepared to take that test for as long as yours truly here. This is our facility that Linda came to, and when she came on in 1997, it houses TechWell Inc., a mechanical test lab, and real educational services goes through this door here. We built this after many times of expanding the classrooms to hold 50 people, but I'll step out of the way so that you can see we're now only putting 25 people in that classroom. And we basically, that's not the whole room. There's some not shown here, but we put people in every other seat with plenty of nice, comfortable chairs as well as big tables. Let Linda talk to you about this one.
In about 2006, we had a grandson born in the area of Atlanta, Georgia. So we were up here, and we ended up buying a house up here north of Atlanta. And we were driving by this building several times for probably 3 or 4 years before I finally got Gerald to stop and look at the building with me. It was in foreclosure, so I wanted to see if it would make a good school for us. We had been teaching in a small motel in an upstairs, just a couple of rooms that were, the walls were knocked out, and they had combined it to make a kind of classroom for us. This turned out to be a wonderful space. It was a warehouse on the inside that allowed us to bring in our own way of putting the classroom together, which means you have a large classroom like you're going to see here in just a few minutes, and we have made it so that it's quiet, it's comfortable, and it's brightly lit. So all the things that you're going to need as far as being in a stressful class, I'll tell you it's a stressful class, but the comforts are here to make you feel a little bit better. Now, we did have this built for as much as 75 people in a room, but to be honest with you, 35 I think is plenty for this location. So we try to keep it to that level or a little bit less. Now, this is what our sign looks like when you come up, so you can take a look at that. And here's our classroom. Notice that we have L-shaped tables for you here. So there's really 2 tables put together and a comfortable chair with it. This is going to allow you plenty of space to spread out your plastic samples, your tools, and your workbook, whatever we're working on in class. And also you're going to take the test at these same desks. So you'll have plenty of space to spread out and get comfortable for taking the test. This is why I say it's important to have table space. Notice that, yes, we do have more samples than AWS does for the test, but you're going to find that their samples are bigger, so you need a place to spread them out. If you've ever sat in a motel and looked at a table there, maybe in a conference or something, you know those tables are not more than 18 inches deep at the most. This allows you much more room to be comfortable while you're taking the test. And I like to say, stay organized.
Yeah. And this was our last facility that we purchased. We didn't really want to buy a facility of any kind at my age, but we had been training in Houston, Texas for 20 years. And we had moved around in a big location, probably 5 times, and we had one whole suite upstairs, windows on the west side of the building. And crime got so bad out there that our last class that we had, a truck was stolen right out from under our eyes outside, and people's truck were broken into. So we had to get away from that area. And we wound up, this was a facility that was an entertainment complex. On Saturday nights and Sundays, they would have as many as 1,500 people in here, and the parking lot out front's about 2 acres. So we came in and modified the inside. It was huge, about 14,000 square feet. It was a skating rink at one time too. And we put a huge classroom in there that will comfortably seat 150, but we've limited it now with the things going on in the country down to 50. So we really spread you out in this one. It's out on 290 between Houston and the capital, Austin, and quiet location. Plenty of motels to stay in, plenty of places to eat. So, but it's just quiet and out of the way. And our classrooms out there are arranged just like the ones in Georgia. This particular slide doesn't show you how big that room is, but it's plenty big. So you got plenty of room to move. And if if somebody sneezes, you can back up about 30 feet and get away from them and still be in hearing range of the.
I think this slide probably shows about 20% of the classroom space that's in that large classroom.
Now, when you come out, you're not going to see these huge palm trees that we had around the front. That storm that came this winter, 7 degrees at this location, 2 nights in a row, took care of those. They're not there anymore. Now, this is our current training samples. Linda had, actually, we ordered 52 sets of the ones at AWS. We're preparing for the third-party people at the cost of $2,400 a set. We ordered them in like February of 2015, and we'd call them every month. Well, they're not ready, and finally, about 6 months into it, we thought, well, let's go ahead and build us a set for our online training, just in case they don't come in time. And those samples that we ordered from AWS came the week that we were to give our first test in Houma, Louisiana. And of course, when they came, Linda had already taken the test up in the Carolinas, so she knew those samples, we couldn't get people prepared. So we had already built some. So I'm gonna let her tell you about it, because she was a big part of getting these things put together.
Well, since I'd already seen at least something like the test samples were going to be for the real test, I knew that when I saw those samples that came to us that they were not detailed enough. So we actually found a welder in one of our CWI classes that was willing to stay on with us for a little while, actually about 6 months, to create the welds that are going to become the mold, or the pieces to mold for these plastic samples. Now, it took 6 months to make these samples only because this was a very good welder, and good welders really don't like making bad welds.
Yeah.
So he and Gerald would get together and make up a weld or two and then bring it to me, and I'd say, no, that's not ugly enough, and send them back to make them uglier. Because the test samples, I wanted you to see some discontinuities, some rejectable situations. I wanted you to have plenty of places to know that ugly is not always rejectable, in other words. So plastic samples were then made in Tennessee. We found a great company to give us the details that were on the weldments themselves. So our test samples, or our plastic samples, are, I think, more detailed than any ones that we've seen. And yes, we have a few different sets sitting out for you in Texas, so you can compare the difference between our prep samples and theirs.
And we were barred from using the people that made AWS samples when we returned those, and the people that made theirs, I forget where they were, but they were told that they can't make them for real educational service. So we were not sure we were going to find somebody to make them. So I bought a piece of equipment. We spent about $14,000-$15,000 so that we could duplicate and cut into small pieces actual metal parts, and everybody would have the same thing. So that's how dedicated we are to make sure that we get you what you need in detail enough to be prepared to go take that test. But fortunately, like Linda said, we found somebody that could replicate them. A whole lot lighter going around the country with these than it is the steel ones. So here we are. That was about 2010, I think we made that picture down seeing my grandkids down in Atlanta area. So what do we do to stay current? We take the test over and over again. Between the two of us, I know we've taken it 10 times. And no, we didn't fail at 9. We just retake it so that we can make sure that the test is a valid, good test. They are testing on the information they say, and to let you know that, yep, we know how to get you ready for the test. Not to get the questions to put in our question. We don't even try to do that. We wouldn't teach you the questions if we had them. We want to teach you how to be a good CWI and give you enough information to go take those. So anyway, that's what we do to stay current. And I'll let Linda talk about this one. It's her idea.
Well, after sitting in Gerald's class, watching him teach for maybe 15 to 20 times, I was really rewriting the course while he was teaching. And I was listening. And I know when I came through the class in the March time of 97, that what he taught me was definitely plenty good to take the test, not just that and pass it, but also that he had a unique way of relating things that I thought really worked well. So I was really convinced that if someone sat through the class that I sat through and didn't make the test the first time, that they just needed a little more time to absorb all the information, because it is a lot of information. So that's why I wanted to offer to those who wanted to come back and still work hard at getting it, wanted to give them a chance to come back for free. So again, I'm trying to help people. We're trying to help people instead of just taking your money. We're not really in it for the money. We both really enjoy what we do. So I was trying to help people, but unfortunately, a few years went by, about 10 years went by, and we came to the realization, Gerald did, that what he was seeing was people came back because they didn't work it in the first go-around. So, and yes, I did see people sitting in class kind of idling along or on their phones or just not paying attention, not doing the homework. And basically what they would tell me is, well, if I don't make it this time, I'll just come back again.
Yeah.
Now, that didn't make sense to me about the cost of leaving work and staying out of town and all that, but sure enough, that's what they were doing. So Gerald said, we really ought to be rewarding something else, not rewarding a lack of motivation. So he came up with a way of rewarding people with that motivation instead.
Yeah, and Linda doesn't want big classes anymore, and we've had the big ones. We had a class in the last one in Texas that year that we quit this. There was 22 people that were repeating for free. They came out of the previous 150 person class. This class had 170 in it, and those 22 people wanted all of Linda's attention, because now it was, we had to do it. The key was what she mentioned when she came to class. She studied and worked hard, and she made the test. That's what you have to do in that. We decided to reward people for working hard that would average a 92, and we would give them a free film interpretation class worth $900, and they get 40 hours towards renewal of 9 years. So we want your success. So I'm going to let Linda talk about this one too.
We really are people who care about your success in this. We know that it costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
And it's really it's the hardest test I've ever taken. I think Gerald would say the same thing. It's the hardest test we've ever taken. So we know you have to work hard. And if you're willing to work hard and are able to put out the money to do this, then we ought to actually be giving you everything we can, and we put our hearts into it. But updating the course all the time, that is just something I think, yes, everybody has to do that, and everybody is supposed to be giving you current information. We've even changed from a 5-day to a 7-day to a 10-day class, just because over the time that I was taking the test every 3 years, I saw it getting more and more difficult, and people needing more and more time to be able to put all this in and download it on test day. So we're making changes all for our students. Even the purchase of the building in Hempstead, Texas, really was for our students, not for us. Now, that's really what we're in this for, is to hear about your success, to help you get there. And I think one of the things that makes my day anymore, and it always has, I suppose, is to get a text from a previous student saying he just got his scores and he passed all 3 tests.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. And we're after that happening for you the first time around, not having to come back 3 or 4 times to take it.
Yeah. In the beginning days of this program, in the 70s and 80s, the people coming to classes were already inspection personnel that wanted this certification. But nowadays, we got people that are what I call wannabe inspectors, and some of them have very little experience, just minimum, and some of them none welding. So they are actually further away from what I call the starting point or the trough to get going. And we had to go to the 10-day program to be able to, plus the fact that the thing got so much harder and so much more information, we had to add that to be successful getting people through that thing and tested the first time. So here's a few reasons why we feel like you should consider us. If you're looking to do the CWI or any of the programs that we have out there, that's not the only one we have. This year, I've already accomplished 41 years. This is my 42nd year that I'm working on now. And about July of this year, I will have been at it for 42. We stay current by taking the test. Linda's always making things better, rearranging and things. When she first came, she wondered, why did I change stuff every time? And I'm saying, I'm looking at these people in the eyes and they need a different approach. So now she was in the military and they didn't change much in there. But we were changing all the time, and now she's worse than I used to be. We always updating it. Your success is our success, and we're not just in it for the money. Now, when you come to our facilities, that we own the 3 facilities, and of course the CWI program, we had 28 of them and 21 scattered over 6 states. But you'll find all kind of shelves and tables full of welded replicas, test replicas that show the real thing. So not only do you get to come to listen to us talk about the CWI training and whatever training, but you get to see a lot of history there that's scattered around in our facilities.
And if you would like to hear more from us or would like to get a schedule of our classes, you can email us at info@realeducational.com, or you can call us at 228-762-2890 or 1-800-489-2890. And we have 3 ladies that are very knowledgeable, caring people that are willing to take your call and show you every step that you have to take and make sure that you get all these things done correctly. I know sometimes you can call people and it doesn't really feel like you're getting any help, or you have to talk to a computer.
Yeah.
We have real people that have been working with students for several years, one as many as 20 years with our courses. So please feel free to call them, talk to them, ask them questions if you need to, and get a little more information.
And ask around the people you're working with. They might have, the history of ours has been a long time. You might bump into somebody that's taken our course. Some think we do a good job, so ask around and give us a call.